Okay guys, welcome back to the channel. Gonna do one of my most eccentric videos ever today. And I'm not talking about my clothes. Yes, they are normally eccentric, although tonight, not too eccentric. My pants are a little eccentric. Maybe I'll show you those. Little Mad Max tonight. Went out on the town. But that's one definition of eccentric. Weird clothing, weird behavior, and I qualify for all that. So I'm normally giving you eccentric videos, but now I'm going to up the ante because the word eccentric actually applies to the audiophile realm too now, and a tweak, and it's related to the word eccentricity, which applies to the rotation of the album on the spindle and the platter, and how a device created by this company DS Audio, very innovative turntable, cartridge manufacturer that's been really taking the industry by storm. Very innovative, very cost effective too in terms of price to performance ratio, just on their cartridge and their phono stages. But this device, this tweak device, is kind of a clamp that fits over on your spindle and measures the eccentricity, how far off it is from that perfect circle, and getting the best wow and flutter you can achieve with getting that rotation perfectly on the spindle. And I'm going to let the guy from Musical Surroundings, I was at 3MA Audio, and the distributor was there, a gentleman, Garth, with Musical Surroundings, was there to demo this device. And so I filmed the whole thing, and he's going to explain it in more detail than I can. And their website is also good if you want to find out some more details. But what I wanted to do with this preface video, part of the video, is share with you what I heard, because it wasn't really conducive to a cell phone video anyway, and I only had time for one track. It was middle of the day. But first things first, this will be dependent on how bad your spindle and turntable is to begin with. So each person may have different results. But in terms of tweaks, I think it meets a higher bar than most tweaks do. Number one, as you're going to see in the video and the demo, it does do measurements to do a calibration. And as you move things, you see it calibrating better. And then, of course, for subjectivists, you have the ability to A/B it with and without, fairly easy without that calibration. So what did I hear when I heard the A/B? I only had a chance for one song again. So different albums, that could be much different, bigger differences, different turntables, all different factors. But for me, what was pretty ear-opening was that, yes, there were some tangible sound quality things, maybe a little less sibilance and some better decay on long notes and more realism. But I wouldn't put those differences as monumental or big enough to justify. It's a pretty expensive device, $6,000. But I did think one thing was pretty noteworthy. When I heard it after the calibration, before the calibration, then after, I noticed Ella Fitzgerald's voice being much more onto the right side of what I was listening to. And so at first I was wondering, what happened to the channel balance? Did it actually make things worse? But then we went back, and this is a very important macro point. When you're doing A/B comparisons, never just make a judgment after going A to B and then say, I'm done. Always do A to B, B back to forth as many times as you need to really get defined on what you're hearing. And so I kind of just made no comments. I just wanted to digest what was I hearing, and I didn't make any conclusions until we went back again and then back again a couple times, because what I figured out is that, yes, when it wasn't calibrated, her voice seemed more in the center and what you might intuitively think was right. But then when I started to digest really what was happening, the tracking probably of the cartridge was improved so much that when I was listening after calibration, her voice was much more precise, real, shrunk down to a more realistic, precise location on the soundstage, such that she appeared where I think she was mic'd to be. And then when it wasn't calibrated, it was much more nebulous, lesser defined, bigger voice, and that made it seem like it was more in the center than the calibrated version. And so that alone, to me, was the biggest takeaway. And it does make sense if you are improving things like wow, flutter, and tracking, and all these things, that channel separation, which the needle has to do a lot to get that left and right precisely, probably that is the benefit it's serving. I give it a thumbs up at this point. Now, everybody's going to make judgments on the $6,000 price tag, whether that's justified or not. But in the world of audiophile, and you talk about tweaks, like I said, this tweak passes a couple of tests. For the subjectivist, you obviously can do your A/B subjective comparisons, but objectivists can also see measurements, as you're going to see in this video, of how it's measuring with the sensors, and everything you do calibrates it. So, and then the difference I heard, I think, would be of a magnitude better than even cables and all these other tweaks and normal record clamps and other kind of tweaks that people have spent even more money than $6,000 on. So without further ado, I'll let you hear straight from the distributor and see the demo in action. All right, guys, we're here with the musical surroundings, fellas. This is Garth and Ken with musical surroundings. And I got an innovative product today to showcase for you guys. Let me turn it over to Garth, because I'm not a big turntable guy. You're going to speak much more eloquently on this.
Okay, thanks. Yeah. Hi, I'm Garth Learer, musical surroundings. At one of the coolest hi-fi stores you've ever been to, 3MA here in Houston, Texas. And we're going to be showing you the DS Audio Eccentricity stabilization device. So,
let me take a little closer look at this thing, because I've heard a lot about it.
Yeah, there it is sitting on the turntable right there. And what we're going to do is actually turn the turntable on. This nice acoustic signature. We're going to switch to 45, which is the speed that this Ella Fitzgerald record is at, and we're going to show you what's going on over here. So I'm going to turn the unit on, and right now you can see on the screen, if we get up above, we're going to be measuring the eccentricity of this record. So I'm going to press down here, and there it is. It's measuring the eccentricity of the vinyl. And as you can see, that little crosshair is going around in the circle. That's basically tracking the eccentricity of this record at two different points. If you go down here, you'll see that there's two infrared beams on basically at 4 and 8 o'clock roughly, and it's giving you two measuring points to show what the eccentricity is. I can press right here, and it'll actually read even further and give me a readout of the amount of micron of eccentricity that we're looking at. And so I go here, go back to the first screen. There you go. And now we're measuring it. What I do is shut the turntable down once I've measured my eccentricity. Stop the platter. And then I go to adjust the record to see how closely I can get it centered. If I move the record a little bit side to side, I can see that it's tracking the eccentricity that we were looking at. And then I see where I need to be. And then I can see about making an actual adjustment to the record itself. There's usually a little bit of play in the spindle hole. Continue to move it. And then as I see if I can shift it over a little bit closer, and here we are. And okay, we're lining up on that vertical axis. And let's see if I can actually move this thing into, almost there. Oh, perfect. So that little bit of adjustment is all it took to take this record from being about 200 microns of eccentricity to be within 30 microns of eccentricity. You can actually see in the before and after, as we go to that thinner line, what we're seeing is we're removing any kind of eccentricity. I can actually nudge this guy even maybe a little bit more. There we go. And that's all. That's
right on.
That's right there. And that's all it takes. So this is the DS Audio Eccentricity device. It's made by DS Audio, a company in Japan who basically pioneered the idea of modern optical phono cartridges. And
yeah, you were telling me some of the background behind the family and stuff. I think that'd be interesting for people to know.
Yeah, the Aogi family. There's the father, Ted, and he actually was the co-inventor of the optical mouse with Microsoft.
Wow.
So he's got a background in audio, but probably for the last 20, 30 years has been doing optical design and manufacturing in Japan. And his son Aki came of age. He gave Aki the freedom to go out and see what he wanted to do in the audio world. And Aki discovered optical cartridges that were originally built by Toshiba in the 1960s. but that technology was limited because they had to use light bulbs, and the heat of the light bulb would, eventually not work in an enclosure that's as small as a phono cartridge. So using modern day technology, this actually uses LEDs. This is the ES-003. It uses 2 LEDs, one per channel, and a photodiode, one per channel, so it's essentially dual mono. It works like a traditional phono cartridge. It does have a stylus and a cantilever, and what you do is you track the record, but instead of vibrating a coil in a magnetic field, you're actually vibrating a shutter between a beam of light and a light detector. And that's what creates the electrical voltage signal for the left and right channels to create the audio sound. Totally unique. At $6,000 for the phono cartridge and the matching phono stage at the bottom of the rack, it's been singled out as an exceptional value. DS Audio makes optical systems starting from $2,750 all the way up to $60,000. They're all cross-compatible, and now more and more phono stage manufacturers are looking at creating optical phono stages to work with, the DS Audio optical cartridges. So Aki loves to address areas of analog that have potential for improvement, and that's what he's done with the optical phono cartridge, and now his Eccentricity detector is a totally unique device, which will mean every record you play will be perfectly centered. And by doing that, you'll have the greatest clarity, the greatest dynamics, and the highest performance that's possible from an analog LP.
Interesting. And the price tag on the?
Is $6,000.
Okay.
And it's essentially a record clamp with a precision measuring device and a microprocessor all built into it.
Fascinating. Yeah, and like you were talking about the open architecture of the phono stage, Meitner has even come out with their own version that is spoken of well as well.
Yeah, what he wants to do is make it possible so all good electronics manufacturers can either build dedicated optical phono stages or put an optical phono stage card into any phono preamp. One of the advantages of the optical phono stage is that the output of the cartridge is about the same as a line level device. So you only need about 16 to 20 dB worth of gain, where compared to a high-end moving coil, you need 60 to 80 dB worth of gain. So you're able to lower the noise floor considerably in phono playback, which has always been one of those things where they say, I wish my turntable could be as quiet as my digital source. Well, now with DS Audio, you're able to do that. It also has lower moving mass to the generator than a moving coil, sometimes up to 70%. So it tracks much better, and it's less, less sensitive to record noise and things like that. So at the end of the day, you're able to get record playback, which has kind of the noise-free characteristics that people love about digital, but still with the textures, the spatial aspects, and the dynamics that we always love about LPs. So it kind of combines the best of all worlds of audio to get you exceptional playback quality.
Yeah, I love seeing innovative products like this. And for those interested in some questions that immediately may pop to mind, this is all analog, even though we may think this is a digital.
Completely analog system.
Yeah.
It doesn't use lasers.
Right.
It doesn't digitize anything.
Yeah.
It's an optical system. And it's pure analog, and with the ES-001 eccentricity stabilization device, it actually uses infrared to actually measure the record and then let you correct it by just simply moving it slightly on the spindle to get it perfectly centered.
Yeah, and for those that have been following along on my channel, I've been a big fan of Wally Tools and JR. You would do the same methodology. It's got the stylus. It's basically same methodology for setting it up.
Right, yeah, and JR has worked with the optical cartridges and done measurements with those as well, and has been very impressed with them.
Because of the consistency, probably is a lot easier to maintain in some respects too. So,
yeah, and that's an excellent point. And also, the interesting thing with a magnetic cartridge, like an MC, a moving coil cartridge, that you have, problems where the magnet system slows down and speeds up, because you think about it, as you get something that's metal closer or further away from a magnet, the attraction changes, and so does the pull. So again, with an optical cartridge, you have none of those idiosyncrasies of the magnetic system. And what a lot of people may not understand is that there were a lot of cartridge technologies that existed in the 50s when the LP was really coming into its own. And much like the 44.1 kilohertz sampling rate that they chose for digital when it came out in the 80s, they decided to make the RIAA curve and MC or MM cartridges the standard. And like most standards, you can sometimes have the lowest common denominator. So optical cartridges, strain gauge cartridges, crystal cartridges, were many other technologies available. In the case of optical, they were developed in the 60s, first by Toshiba, but it was really the impracticality of trying to put a little light bulb in something as small as that and not have the heat generated by the light bulb have any detrimental effect. But now that we're using the LEDs, which are totally heat-free devices, which effectively have almost an infinite lifespan to them as well, as opposed to a light bulb, this new technology that Aki developed for the DS optical cartridges is something that's really special.
No, great, and thank you for sharing this, because it's definitely an innovative product that not a lot of people have even heard of, and the few that haven't had this level of detail from the distributor. While we're talking about you as a distributor, do you want to talk about some of the other brands you carry and some of your history just in general?
Yeah, that'd be great. So yeah, I'm the owner of Musical Surroundings. We're celebrating 31 years. When I started in 1991, people said, "You're doing a company dedicated to analog?" And I said, "Yeah, it's my preference, listening to records. I love vinyl, and I think it's going to outlive the CD." And I think here in 2022, it's kind of been proven. So we're focused only on analog products. In addition to DS audio, we do Hana phono cartridges from Japan, which are recognized for incredible sound quality and exceptional value. Our big brand is Clear Audio, which is going to celebrate their 45th year now as a German manufacturer, what we refer to as the widest dynamic range of turntables available. They make turntables starting from about $2,500 up to about $250,000, and everything that goes along with them, from the phono cartridges, the tone arms, phono stages, record cleaners, all those kind of great things. And lastly, our own brand, Musical Surroundings, which we manufacture in Northern California, where we're based. And there we make a line of very high quality yet high value phono stages that run roughly from about $750 to about $2,500. So it's
Cool.
been a fun journey.
Yeah, you've been in business for a long time, so kudos to you on that. Great product, shows you're still evolving and innovating.
Yep, we're never going to stop. So in fact, we're just introducing here in September of 2022 the W3 system, which DS Audio now calls their new reference. It'll be a $15,000 system, essentially a $5,000 optical phono cartridge with a $10,000 matching phono equalizer. And those are just starting to be delivered this month, and we're really excited about the promise that that shows as well.
Great. Well, thank you for your time. It's been great meeting you, and I think a lot of people will find this interesting.
Great. Well, thank you. Have a great one.